Hi, I'm Sara McNally, and welcome to Self-Inquiry Through Collage Journaling. I am a lifelong artist and a recovering small business owner. I ran the letterpress stationery company Constellation & Co. for 13 years and have always loved working with paper, printmaking, and all of that good fun stuff. I inherited the habit of hoarding paper that I've attached my thoughts and feelings and memories to from my grandmother, who also was a bit of a paper hoarder. I want to thank you for joining me today here in the workshop, and I just want to talk to you first about why we journal. I have a great quote from Jerry Colonna, who wrote a book called Reboot. He is a coach for CEOs, which may not feel at all applicable to this context, but he talks a lot about radical self-inquiry, and it was really inspiring to me, and I do recommend the book. So the quote says, "This is the first step to radical self-inquiry. It starts with the courage to be still in the face of uncertainty." And I don't know about you, but I have been through a lot of uncertain days in my life, a lot of times where I felt off at sea and like I didn't know which way was up. And journaling for me has been a way of grounding myself back in my life and in how I feel about what's going on around me. But a journal can also be really daunting when you're going through something difficult. It is hard to sit down and reprocess those things step by step, just pen on paper. It can be really daunting, really difficult to want to sit down and take that time. So that is why I collage journal. To get us started talking about collage, I want to give you a John Stezaker quote. He is an awesome collage artist, and I will include some of his work here so you can take a look. I have several links for you to take a look at, different collage artists, different things that I think are helpful. So you're welcome to click into those anytime, take a look, pause this, come back if you'd like. So John Stezaker says, "Collage allows the opening up of conscious, which is very direct. It is also a way of looking at what you are consuming all the time." And that really rings true for me in my artistic process, because a big part of collage journaling is finding the fodder, the things that you're going to use. I keep looking at my pile of stuff that I'm going to work with later. It's right here. And collecting those bits and pieces are a big part of the process. It's not just time spent with scissors and glue in your hand at your desk. It's the lifestyle of paying attention to art and design, to color and shape, to image and words, to things that are compelling to you throughout your daily life and everywhere you go. I like to think of it as being a magpie, someone who likes to find shiny things and collect them and use them up. I think a big important part of the process is not to hoard so much that you feel overwhelmed by your stash, but to use it as you go along and to know that the world will always send you new things to work with, so you don't have to keep everything forever. So to give collage a little context in history and in the art world, I love this description from the Tate Museum. It says, "Collage describes both the technique and resulting work of art in which pieces of paper, photographs, fabric, and other ephemera are arranged and stuck down onto a supporting surface." Historically, collage derives from the French term papier-collé or découpage, used to describe techniques of pasting paper cutouts onto various surfaces. It was first used as an artist technique in the early 20th century, the 1900s. And John Stezaker has another quote that I think is worthwhile. It says, "Montage is about producing something seamless and legible, whereas collage is about interrupting the seam and making something illegible." And I think that this is a great opportunity to talk about scrapbooks. So I include this because an acquaintance of mine once described my collage journals as like my little scrapbooks, and it took me a while to figure out why that bothered me so much. And a lot of it is because when I think about a scrapbook, I think about the 90s when moms were going to scrapbook stores and buying all the little doodads to put into their scrapbooks and creating a narrative of life that was very polished and very very linear and very like direct narrative. So if the holiday that just passed was Easter, you'd have a spread for Easter, and you'd have pastel color papers, and you'd have little cutouts of eggs and Easter bunnies, and you'd have like the picture perfect photo of the kids in front of the Easter basket, and then you'd have a description, and it would be a very straightforward telling of this is the events of what happened. But it doesn't really tell you the life behind it. It doesn't tell you how it felt, or even the reality of, you know, right before and right after this picture, the kids were all beating each other over the head with their Easter baskets. Like, typically that is not the thing that is included in a scrapbook. But in a collage journal, you're not creating something that is going to be legible and readable and knowable to everyone who looks at it. You're creating something with a storyline that maybe only you will understand, because it's not about what happened, it's about how you felt about it. It's about how it feels to live in your body and how it feels to experience the world as you. I think collage journaling should be really personal, and it is for me. And I like to think about it because I'm a Swiftie. I'm a nerdy Swiftie. I like to think about it like leaving my future self Easter eggs, like little clues and hints to connect me back to a place and a time and people and feelings and what was happening in my life that are going to be meaningful for me and memorable for me, but aren't going to be something that someone else can open and know the story of my life. Because that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm not writing an autobiography. I'm processing my feelings in 2 dimensions. And I think the reason that I keep telling the scrapbook story is because it's easy to hear like stupid little scrapbook and become like my stupid little memories of the stupid little moments of my stupid little life. And that's not the ethos that I want for you or for me or for any of us. So with that, I'm going to read you my favorite poem from Mary Oliver. It's called The Summer Day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper. I mean the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last, and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? The last bit of that poem, tell me what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life, has been co-opted quite a bit through the years by like rise and grind influencers, like the sense of urgency and like aggression, like tell me what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life. But for me, that poem encapsulates what it means to be an artist in the world. And I don't just mean working artists. I don't mean students. I mean to be an artist doing whatever it is that you do from sun up to sundown and beyond. Being an artist is to pay attention. And collage journaling is such a great way to pay attention while you forage for things to use in your journal. I don't encourage people to go out and buy a bunch of things to use in this hobby, this endeavor. I do encourage people to forage for them, to find them in the world, to find them in places where they are free, to find them in places where they naturally collect in your home, to find the things you've been keeping for a long time. I don't know about you, but I hoard stickers and I love having a place to put them. But that's not all. I keep letters people have written to me and postcards. I keep Polaroids and pretty bits of tissue paper and drawings that my son has done and things ripped out of magazines. And, you know, I keep things because I see the beauty in them. And as someone who's here and wants to learn about art and probably is a creative person in your own ways, it's important to give time and to give care to that desire to pay attention to the world around you, but also to yourself and how the world impacts you, to how you feel. And this is a place where no one else has to go. It's just for you. And you can go in there and be honest, emotionally honest, and let yourself work things out and pay attention to yourself. I promise we will get to the meat and potatoes of actually cutting and gluing in a moment. But the final thing I want to impress upon you is the best creative process is one that you will keep up with, one that you'll actually come back to because it's enjoyable. If it becomes a place of guilt or perfectionism, you will probably give it up and never look at it again. And that is okay if it's not for you. But if it is something you want to do, create a place of freedom and of honesty, and don't put too much pressure on yourself. If you're not someone who'd consider themselves an artist or even maybe a creative, it's okay. You don't have to know what you're doing with this. It doesn't have to be pretty, and you don't have to share it with anyone. You don't have to show it to anyone. It will change over time. What you're drawn to will change. How you use materials will change. And those shifts and changes are part of the narrative. They're part of your story, and they're to be expected, and they are good. Your spreads don't have to be finished when you turn the page. It's okay to let them flow and be unplanned and to let them surprise you. The right piece of paper in just the right shape and the right color and the right time will arrive. It always does. And it's great to be able to go back and revisit things and add, you know, more and more depth as you change and as the story changes. And one of my best tips and tricks that I can give you is to carry your notebook and your tools with you, to have them handy and to pull them out whenever you have a moment, to not need to set aside hours to work on this, but to give yourself the little minutes throughout your real life and carve out that time for yourself. And then another practical thing that I like to share is to not collect more paper than you'll be able to use, but to use it as you go along, because it can be overwhelming, at least for me, to have so much to look through and so much to use. So I like when I just have a little stack of things that I'm going to incorporate, because then I can do those little bite-sized moments of creating without it being this overwhelming thing. All right, so we finished the theory and the esoteric part of the workshop, and we're going to get into talking about materials. So this is a great time to take a little break and grab yourself a cup of coffee if you want one, and then we'll get going on talking about materials. All right, let's chat materials, because you know art supplies are fun and we enjoy them. So for today, for just sitting down and working this first time, all you're going to need are some 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper that you can fold in half, in either direction is fine. Any pair of scissors, any glue or tape, and then your recycling bin. If you have a paper recycling bin under a desk, or some stack of paper that you can rifle through, that's all we'll really need for today. I will give you some time in a few minutes to go and gather things, so don't worry about that right now. But before we do that, I'm going to talk you through some of my favorite tools and what I work with, what my setup is, because people always have a lot of questions. And in the links, there are links to these specific things, so you can go and take a look at that as well. But I like to encourage folks that if you have something you'd already like to work with, some kind of notebook, some kind of whatever, if you have it and you want to use it, do that. These are just my favorite things. And if you do take a look at the links, there's a supply list on Amazon, but do note that I am an Amazon associate and may earn from qualifying purchases. I appreciate your support, but absolutely no pressure whatsoever. If you have a small business near you, I suggest that you shop with them. Please, thank you. For my setup, I work with the Traveler's Notebook from Traveler's Company. It has a leather cover, and I've had it since 2019, and I've taken it to different countries all over the place. And my very thick notebooks still work once I've been working on them for a while. They still fit. It has the elastic band to keep it together, which I like. In mine, I have some sort of bonus things at the front. I've got like a zip pocket for some extra stuff that I like to keep with me. I like their brass clip because it's nice and heavy and it's good for holding pages open as you're working. Here at the front, I have a blank insert that I just write, meeting notes and whatever from work for whatever I'm doing. I like to keep those in the front. So a place for those. I love this sticky note insert. I'm a big fan. And then in the back, I have my collage journal. And the inserts are, they're only $5.50 for the blank, lined, or grid options. So even though it's sort of an investment to like get the cover and get started, $5 an insert feels like a pretty reasonable price for getting started. Okie. And if you're interested in Traveler's notebooks, you can order directly from them. There's also lots of stores that offer them, so definitely take a look and see if the stationery store near you has them. I do like those. I've also used an off-brand Amazon option for the inserts. That was fine. I've also taken old notebooks and cut them down to the right size. That worked fine. There's a lot of ways to do it. I just like them because they have this soft cover. They expand pretty nicely and hold together, and the paper's not too thick so it doesn't get too like overwhelming as you begin to, just fill it with all kinds of things. Like I said, I carry my things with me, so I always have a bag where I can fit these two things in it. This is not an exciting zip pouch, but it works. One thing you're going to want is an acid-free glue stick. And a lot of companies make them. Maybe don't steal the glue sticks from your children because sometimes those are not archival or acid-free. And you do want these things to hang around and to not get like immediately, stained or bleached out by your glue stick. This one is my favorite, like absolute favorite. I found it at a little stationery store and they are available lots of places, but that was the first place I saw this one. And now that I've used this, I will never go back. I like the size of it. I don't run out of it very quickly. It's made in Italy. It's been in production since the 1920s. So it's a good product because they've stuck around with it. It's acid-free, solvent-free, non-toxic, washable, eco-friendly, and it's made from almonds and it smells like marzipan. Like, it smells like Christmas cookies, and how could you not love that? It's so good. So that's my favorite. I will always have one of these. Sometimes I carry these like double-sided tape rollers. I try not to use them if I'm at home. I just like them for when I'm out, and if I can't like wash my hands, because I have a sensory thing with sticky fingers. This is helpful for if you are at a coffee shop and you want to work but don't want to get sticky. They are good. I hate the waste of plastic, so I sort of have a hate-hate relationship with these, but they do have their place. And I carry a small pair of scissors. I have a bunch of different ones. These I have like the crane style that are really pretty, but I love the little tiny scissors because you can take them on the go and they're always ready. And then I usually carry like a fountain pen and a pencil. That is my little kit. It works for me. I'm going to now give you a dramatic reading of a list of items that you may not have considered to collect and keep and use for your journal. And I'm going to read this to you and then I'm going to send you out to gather materials. And I'd like you to take like 10 to 15 minutes to just scour your life in your house and just see what you're drawn to look for color and texture and shapes that are interesting. If there are words that catch your eye, just to kind of pay attention and forage around your house for paper. Things that I like to use, here's the list. Do with it what you will. Pamphlets with maps, stickers you've been hoarding for too long, the insides of security envelopes. You got bills, you got checks coming in the mail, open them up, look at the inside. Sometimes they have the best patterns on them. They're just super fun. Product packaging that's not too thick. Something with transparency. Receipts are fun. I can show you, yeah, receipts are fun. Tickets, always great. paper shopping bags with designs on them, or just the brown paper, crumple it up, smooth it back out. It's fun. Postcards or greeting cards, travel magazines, especially the ones from the ferry. If you're in a place with a ferry or someplace like a tourist kind of place, the travel magazines that are printed on newsprint, like non-glossy paper, those are really good. I like those a lot. Postage stamps, those paper bracelets they make you wear at events like bouncy castles or when you're in the hospital. Perfume sample cards, love. Business cards, hang tags, vintage paper is always a vibe. Again, try not to go out of your way to like spend a lot of money on it, because I don't think that like fits with the ethos, but you do you, and if you love vintage paper, go shopping. Paint sample chips are awesome. Newspapers, old calendars, Polaroids, photocopies of photographs is really fun. So if you have something that you really want to include, but you don't want to use the original, throw that thing on the photocopier at work. Tissue paper, wrapping paper, and old notebooks or sketchbooks that you don't mind tearing up. I have a lot of things that there's a lot of grocery lists and dumb stuff that I don't need to keep in. I start my fireplace with those. And then the others that have something that might be meaningful or important, you know, a few years down the line, I'll rip them out and reuse them, because there's something beautiful about my own handwriting and the way that that connects me back to myself. That's kind of nice. And it also feels like, you know, this book I read 2 years ago, I might not have remembered this quote, but I chose to write it down. So I'm kind of giving myself a message from the past. It's cool. Some bonus materials that you can work with are watercolor paint. It is super fun to take paper and, you know, paint on it first and then use it. Gives it a whole different vibe. Paint markers are great. Poscas are my favorite. Love those. The jelly plate. I could do a whole class on jelly plate, and somebody should, but just I love printing textures and shapes and things with the jelly plate and then cutting them up and using them. I've been hoarding a bunch of little squares that I cut out from jelly plate prints and other things for a long time. Love to have those. Rubber stamps, paper punches and shapes you enjoy, needle and thread, and I have a few examples of that. I spent a while being really interested in sewing the edges of my paper pages, because I feel like it gives that fun look. It's in this one as well. Just a fun way to incorporate some more texture. And I love to use a fragrance to spray my pages, because I'm a girl who has mad love affairs with fragrance and then falls out of love with them. So it's kind of fun to go back and open a notebook and for it to smell like that season of my life. Highly encourage. So now's the time. I'm gonna send you off. You got 15 minutes to gather materials. Pause me. I'll be over here sipping coffee, and I will see you on the other side when you've got your nice stack of things to work with. Welcome back. I hope you have a plethora of inspiring paper to work with, and I'm excited to get started. So one other thing I didn't say that could be fun is you also don't have to work with blank paper. I don't know about you, but a white sheet of paper staring at me totally blank sometimes feels very overwhelming. So I went to Goodwill a while back and found a bunch of these like old, man, when are these from? These feel very like accurate to my childhood. 1976. No, that's not accurate to my child, but that's fun. Some 1970s piano lessons books. And you can either pull out one sheet and work with it open, or you could pull out all the sheets and staple them together and make your own little notebook. And then just the background of all of them could be fun music notes, which nothing wrong with that. So today, if you just have one sheet of paper, you don't have a notebook yet, you're just going to take it out, fold it in half, and create a spread, because I think it helps have a little bit more space and to be able to work and play things off of each other across the spread. But you can also work on the front and the back. Some best practices that I have found. One is to use a sheet of scrap paper for gluing on. So you're going to have something to put your paper down and then to be able to glue all the way to the edges. So this is going to be like sticky and obnoxious by the end, but your table won't be, or the notebook you're working in won't be. The sticky will be on there. It's helpful. Like I said, apply glue all the way off the edges so it adheres completely. You don't want things really like flopping around unless you do, and that's part of the vibe we're going for, which is also okay. I like to have a damp paper towel or a washcloth for getting the sticky off my hands, because sometimes A, I have sensory issues, and B, sometimes when you're working with the little delicate things and your hands are sticky at moments you don't want them to be, that's obnoxious. So it's nice to have something so you don't have to like jump up and wash. You just have something to clean with. Very helpful. You can use clips to hold your spread open while it dries. If it's in a notebook, sometimes, you know, especially at the beginning, it like wants to close. So you can use the clip and hold it open. Very helpful to have. And it doesn't have to be this clip. It can be literally any binder clip of any type. That's totally fine. Helpful to have. Don't be afraid to layer and obscure things. We want to create depth and interest in our spreads. So if every piece of paper is precious and it can't be covered up at all, you're gonna have something very one note. Some of my favorite spreads are the ones where I just keep adding more and more and more and more and more. There's a lot of layers here that end up getting covered up and obscured, and I enjoy that. So don't be afraid to, you know, use some things that may not be your favorite piece you found and put that on the back and then cover it up with stuff and let little bits peek out. But before we get started, before we like actually rip and cut and paste anything, I want you to spread out your materials in front of you and sit quietly with them for a few minutes. And I have some reflection questions that we can talk through, but I just want you to like really pay attention to what catches your eye, what feels important. So now that you've got your paper set out around you, what colors are you drawn to? What textures are catching your attention? What images are comforting to you? What words catch your attention? What feels all wrong? And you are welcome to remove it from your working area, or if you want to delve into why it feels all wrong, that's an important part of the process as well. What about it is unsettling? And where can you see yourself in the scraps of paper? What connections can you draw between how you're feeling in this moment and how you're feeling about your life and the bits and bobs that are around you? And when you've had some time to do that, to think through that, you're welcome to get started. I do have some exercises to consider while you're working. Rip something up. There's nothing better than just ripping something up and letting it be wild. Like, let your body do what it wants to do, and you can piece it back together, or you can see what kind of shapes come out of it. You can see what kind of edges it's created. Scissors are great, and I like to do some precise cutting sometimes, but ripping feels really good. So feel free and try ripping something up. Try crumpling up a sheet and smoothing it back out and seeing what kind of a texture that you can create. Cut something in half and attach it across the spread. It doesn't have to like meet in the middle. You can make it opposite ways. You can put it across different spreads, but try cutting something up and seeing if something segmented is more interesting than something whole. Fold something over and let it overlap to the next page. So on this one, I have this little sheet that was left over from this page. And I feel like it just is a nice little like connection to the next page. That color pulls through, and I enjoy doing that. Cut out a shape, find something intricate, and if you need and you feel that like little fiddly urge to make something intricate, go with that. Take all the time you want. You can paint or draw on your paper before you're using it. You can find pieces of paper in the same color from a lot of different sources. I have this inventory sign from my last job, and I wanted to incorporate that, but the red was very bold compared to like previous pages that didn't have any red. So I leaned in and I found other things on my travels and in my foraging that were red to kind of pull together that page. And try repeating shapes. I showed you my bin of squares. I've also been known to do, let's see, this is not a collage journal piece, but I've been known to do hexagons as well. And sometimes repeating shapes are a great way to make everything fit together, literally or metaphorically, even though the paper is very different, the colors are very different, the textures are very different. Having some kind of system helps. So now it's time to go. It's time to work. In my Zoom classes or my in-person classes, I give you an hour, and then after the hour, we do some reflection time. And that, I think, is a great period of time to get started and to let yourself really work across a bunch of spreads if you're working quickly, or just do one, and take the time to do it. And then when you're done with that hour, come back here and we'll have some reflection questions for working. And while you do that, I'm going to sit and work here as well. And you can leave me on in the background if you want a buddy to work with. And I hope that you enjoy collaging. is happening with my glue? This is the end of the glue as we know it. Okay. All right. Let's just, you know. Okay. Oh, another one bites the dust. Yikes. Welcome back. How'd it go? So now that we're done, now that we have our spread in front of us, I just want to sit with you and do a few reflection questions. Take all the time you need to sort of think through this and feel through this. And if you have a lot of things that are unlocked, feel free to sit and write about them. If you are also a written journal person, it's okay to do both. And it's also okay for this activity to stir things up that you may need to talk about, or that you want to write about, or you may need to just not think about it for a little while, and that's okay too. It will be here for you when you want to come back. So our reflection questions start with, what do I feel when I look at my spread? What did I feel in my body while I was working? What memory Easter eggs have I left for myself? What connections can I make between the pieces of memory I've collected and impactful moments from my past? And what symbolism can I infer? Are you working on ideas in your journal about rebirth or endings or things coming into bloom, or what seasonal connections can you make with where we're at in the wheel of the year and how you're feeling and what life is looking like? We don't live in a fictional book. No one's writing our story, but we can still find that symbolism in our lives. And sometimes it really helps to make sense of where we're at and what the meaning is in what we're going through. So that is it. You have graduated Collage Journal 101 with Teacher Sara. Really appreciate you being here, and please tag me. I'm at Finding Beauty Seattle, basically everywhere. If you create something and you do want to share it, which you do not have to, I would love to see it. You can DM me or you can tag me, something you share, and I would absolutely love to take a look and to be part of this with you. So thank you so much for giving me so much of your time and for allowing me to be vulnerable and to doing something vulnerable with me. And I hope that this creative process serves you well for years to come. So hooray, hooray for all of us. Thanks for joining. I inhabited the Harriet. Nope. Oh my God. Cute. And I think it's important. So you will be absolutely welcome to take a click. Oh shit. Balls. Fuck. What? So there you have it. Oh. Does earn me qualifying. Shit. Balls. Fuck. Okay. Hooray. Thanks for listening to me talk. Welcome back. Oops, fuck me. Shit, balls. Welcome back. How'd it go? Let me know.